My first look at the wide receiver position for week 8, and we're starting right now. What's up, guys? Welcome to another first look. Do me a favor and smash the like button before you forget. And if this is your first time here and you want to become a profitable DFS player and get better at betting, start now by subscribing to the channel. Make sure and hit that notification bell as well so you don't miss anything along the way. I think it's going to be another tough week for value again at the wide receiver position. So I did try and clean up the sheet a little bit. As you guys can see, I am starting kind of with weighted opportunity rating. This is one of those metrics that I think is extremely important, but kind of broke things down a little bit for people that are new. It's basically a mixture between target market share and air yard market share. So it's kind of one of the best ways to quantify getting deeper targets and still having a nice target share. So I think that that's one of the things that I'd be looking at first, and a couple of guys that stand out right away as being a little bit underpriced. We'll see if we get Sterling Shepard back this week. This is one of those metrics that we're going to kind of have to revisit depending on how things break with certain injuries on a bunch of different teams. Courtland Sutton's the one that I'm interested in at 5,300, though. It is Indy. I think that it's a pretty decent matchup for him. Just seems like he's underpriced. I hate attacking these kind of lower team totals, but it's not a situation where Denver is running more I guess, than some other teams in that range. So I think that we can project him for about 5 catches at 5,300. We know he's going to be getting the deeper ones as well. And before we started this as well, it looks like news broke that Emmanuel Sanders was traded to San Francisco. So that could open up a little bit more of a target share for Courtland Sutton. Definitely kind of affect someone like Isaiah McKenzie as well in this spot. So another metric that I think is super important at the wide receiver position is yards per route run. So you can kind of take out some of the smaller samples here and move down to guys like Michael Thomas. Again, some really small samples in here as well, but a guy like Chris Godwin really popping in this, Jarvis Landry, but Courtland Sutton is kind of right there as well, 2.5 yards per route run. So I think that he's a really interesting one for sure. Someone in the chat was mentioning that Flacco does nothing but look at him all game. Ton of value in that for sure. Someone's asking about Boyd at 5,100. Yeah, Boyd is a guy that I played last week as well. Got my 14 targets for what was it, like 50 yards, something like that, and got out of there. But at 5,100, not a bad spot to get back on Tyler Boyd again. He's probably going to see Jalen Ramsey, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean, if you're not scared off of the cornerback matchup, which is not something that I put a ton of weight into personally, I think Tyler Boyd's totally fine at 5,100. I guess going back to Jalen Ramsey's old team, Robbie Anderson at 4,900. I have some interest in him as well. We've already mentioned the Jets guys a couple minutes ago when we were talking about the running back position. But if they bounce back in the spot, it is a road game in Jacksonville, never ideal. But Robbie Anderson at 4,900, someone that could certainly pop off at that price. What else we got here? I would say Curtis Samuel just because of his kind of weighted opportunity rating, but he's just not running the deeper routes right now that we would like to see from him. But I think that he's someone that we could kind of see gain some traction throughout the week at that price. Mike Williams, someone that was in the buy low model. Shout out Josh Hermsmeyer last week. Still right there at 4K. It seems like an amazing price for him at this point. The Chargers, mentioned this before, they're throwing a ton, at least over the last 3 games. Number 1 in the league as far as their pass percentage goes. So going to someone like Mike Williams, who did get a couple looks in the end zone last week, I think that he's interesting. Again, just a guy that looks like he's pretty mispriced relative to some weighted opportunity rating and whatnot. So hard to play Titans, so many targets. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I always kind of X out the Titans in my pool typically. They never really pop in a lot of this type of stuff that I look at anyways. Mike Evans at 6,600 against Tennessee, kind of on the other side of that game. Sure, he's going to see Malcolm Butler. Yeah, I think that's a decent price for him, 6,600. Pretty reasonable. Tight spread as well. So like a lot of these teams at the top, like kind of skewing one way or the other as far as game script goes. A lot of value in a game that could be kind of like an undercover shootout if it breaks perfectly. So that's an interesting one. Demaryius Thomas at 3,300 is popping at least in weighted opportunity rating. I don't know if I can get on board with that one, but it's interesting for sure. I think we kind of hit on some of the top values already. Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd seem like they pretty severely mispriced. What do you guys think of Kenny Stills? Again, we mentioned yards per route run. He was kind of right there, 4,700 against Oakland, a team that can be beat. And in kind of the deep area of the field. 28th passes in the deep area of the field. So I think that's a really interesting one, actually. 4,700 seems like a really strong price for him. Fuller almost certainly not playing. Yeah, so I mean, I think that's one that I could see gaining some traction for sure. 4,700 for sure. In that same range, and I kind of joke about Demarius, but at 3,300, he's still got to be at least in play. If you want to pay all the way down, I had 9 targets last week, 4 the week before, 9 before that. Like, the ceiling is very low. Of course, it is like corpse of Demarius Thomas, but at that price, I think he's at least in play. I would strongly prefer just to get up to Mike Williams at that point. I think there's a lot more upside there, even against Chicago. Let's see. Odell Beckham, 6,500, just kind of teasing us, I guess, but he's going to get a ton of Stephon Gilmore in this game, I would imagine. I'm not going out of my way to just target this New England defense. So Odell's probably going to be a fade for me at that price, which still is kind of crazy to see him all the way down there. But yeah, really tough spot for him, of course. Could be just another DeAndre Hopkins game. If Fuller's out, could easily just be DeAndre Hopkins, 8,100. You got to pay for it, but one of the kind of elite spots on the slate for sure. Been kind of tiptoeing around the Michael Thomas thing at 8K because I think he's going to be one of the more popular plays on the entire slate against this Arizona team who can be beat in the deep area of the field, in the short area of the field. I think a lot of people are going to be scared because of Patrick Peterson. I'm not. I think that, like you guys mentioned, that Flacco is only going to look Courtland Sutton's way. I have a hard time believing that Teddy Bridgewater is not going to continue to lean on Michael Thomas at 8K against Patrick Peterson, sure, but I still would have to give the advantage to Michael Thomas there. I don't know if that makes me crazy, but he is leading the slate in weighted opportunity rating. I'm projecting him for 8 catches right now, which is completely insane as far as yards per route run. I mean, he's the top guy there as well if you're just looking at a larger sample. And yards per route run, by the way, like it's not just trying to capture upside. It's just consistently over the last odd 10 years or so going back. I know that Scott Barrett did a study on this at PFF. Just consistently, some of the best wide receivers in the NFL perform really well in that metric. So that's why it's on my sheet, one of the stickier metrics, along with weighted opportunity rating to use for sure. Yeah, Doozy's asking about Kiki Kute. That's an interesting one, man. So with Fuller out, yeah, there's an argument maybe they would just use a little bit more of Kiki kind of underneath. Oakland, where you beat them, though, is deep. So, yeah, I think that the play is from a target share perspective probably is okay. Let me see what Kiki's price is. 4,100. Yeah, so I think I would still prefer Mike Williams in that range. Maybe I'm just going to go broke chasing this Mike Williams thing, but I think that's the one that stands out to me for sure. Yeah, he's definitely going to get the slot touches. I'm agreeing with you there, Doozy. New England DST was a target monster for Darnold. Yeah, that was crazy, man. Do you guys think that the Jets are too scary to go back to? I mean, it's Jacksonville and whatnot, but the prices there are enticing for these guys. Any interest in Titans wide receivers? Not typically, but I'll take a look. Let's see. Oh, yeah, someone mentioned A.J. Brown before. I think he's probably someone we should talk about. So let's see if I can find him on the sheet here. Okay, so 4,100. Like I said, decent team total. Like that there's a tight spread there. Nice yards per route run. I like that a lot. Tampa Bay, team that can be beat. Yeah, I got no issues with A.J. Brown. I'm projecting him for about 4 catches, which is reasonable. I mean, again, it's so hard to kind of sift our way through A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Adam Humphries. I think that A.J. Brown might actually have the highest ceiling of all 3 of those guys, so I have no issues with that. I think that he's someone that could work out in this matchup for sure. Again, you can't run on Tampa Bay. Maybe they'll still do a decent amount of trying to run with Derrick Henry in this spot, but if you did want to attack the passing game and you wanted to go with someone like Tannehill, I think that he makes a ton of sense for sure. Would you guys have any interest in Obalasi Johnson at stone minimum? I think that just from kind of a pure punt perspective at 3K. Again, not it's probably thin, honestly. I'm gonna have to add it to my sheet here, but I was just kind of looking through a couple of the plays from a projection point per dollar standpoint. I think he could be interesting against Washington. We just know how poor Washington is as a whole. if you are playing the Thursday, Monday slate. I just want to at least have a little bit of that wrinkle for you guys. Like my sheet's only going to show the main slate, but if you are playing Thursday to Monday, starting with kind of your value can open up a lot throughout the week if you're trying to play some of these other studs that we have at running back. So, yeah, I'll be at the Vikings game on Thursday Night Football too. So that's kind of why I looked at it selfishly. I wanted to see if there was anyone in that game that made some sense. All right, so let's walk through a couple of these other guys that are projected for a decent amount of catches but might not hit some of these metrics. Like so, Keenan Allen, for example. I mentioned Mike Williams because he's basically doubled up Keenan Allen as far as his air yards over the last 4 games. You can still project Keenan Allen for a decent amount of volume. It's a decent spot for him at 6,400. Just the name value, I think, is going to draw some ownership for sure, even though it is in Chicago. I think I would just prefer to pay down at that point. What are you guys doing with Cooper Kupp at 7,500? It is Cincinnati. Like, you're just loading up Cooper Kupp for the 3rd week in a row and just hoping that he kind of gets back to that huge target share that he had. I think there's worse things that you could do. If people are going to go back to Goff this week, makes a ton of sense. The Cincinnati team 30th against deep passes, 28th against short. Cooper Kupp at 7,500. I think that personally, I would just go the Michael Thomas route up there. But either way, it could end up working out. I guess we didn't mention Chris Godwin at 7,100 against Tennessee again. Like I think that he's totally fine. I think Evans probably has a little bit of the deeper target upside there, and that's kind of where you want to attack Tennessee anyway. But it could easily be Godwin just with the target share. It's very rarely both of them, so I wouldn't be kind of correlating both of them together with Winston by any means. Galladay with everyone chasing Marvin. Let's look at Galladay. That's a good one. So Marvin Jones, just as we're kind of piecing our way through here, like I said, I like the team total quite a bit. The matchup's great. I would imagine Janoris Jenkins is going to be on Marvin Jones, which, I mean, you probably just give Marvin Jones the benefit of the doubt on that one. Kenny Galladay, 6,400. Like, guys, I just really struggle with this type of weighted opportunity rating at that price. The team total's there, but yeah, I mean, from a perspective of everyone's going to be chasing Marvin after those touchdowns, sure. I think at lower ownership, you'll probably get Kenny Galladay. It's just the price, I guess, is my biggest issue with that. Like for the same price, nearly you can get Mike Evans for the same price, or for a little bit more expensive, you could just get up to a guy like Chris Godwin. So Vikes might run it 40 times with Cook and Madison. I could see it, man. I've been there. The Vikes games are always tough to watch in person. What else we got here? I think that's probably going to just about do it for me at wide receiver, guys. I think the guys from like kind of a pure value perspective that still stand out, Kenny Stills, Boyd, Williams, those are the guys I'm kind of looking at. Let's look at Dede quickly, though, because I think that Dede is somewhat interesting kind of on the other side of that game against the Jets. So Chark, again, 6K. He's going to be the air yards guy, going to give you a ton of upside. Dede, though, seems like it would be a pretty safe spot for him. Again, like you're not really kind of chasing him for massive upside by any means, but at 4,500, I think he's someone that you can project a good chunk of volume to. Would just probably prefer to go Cortland Sutton or even Boyd at that point, but I think if you're just purely kind of looking at volume and price, Dede's got to be right there. If you want to learn more about how to become a profitable daily fantasy sports player and better, start now by hitting the subscribe icon in the bottom right-hand corner so you don't miss anything. Be on the lookout for all of my DFS content throughout the week as we dive even deeper into week 8. And be sure and join the contest that I have running on LinkedIn. If you want a little bit more information on that, check out my Twitter at Joe Holka. But I will be giving a free entry into the week 9 $100 spy on DraftKings. So make sure you take advantage of that. And I'll see you guys next time.